Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zuli. In this tutorial, we're going to create this simple car website. This is the navigation bar. This serves as the logo. This is the navigation links, and we have two buttons for contacts and rents. We have some text and the image. So at this bottom level, we have three different options where you can select different cars. Okay, as you can see on the screen. So if you select any of it, it's going to display. So now I'm just reloading. You can see there's a little animation. This website is simply for people that are just beginning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so I'll start with the navigation bar. Then I'm going to use the navigation tags and give it a class name of nav. And I'm going to start with the navigation logo. And for the logo, we are going to use an h2 tag to create the name. Just assuming the name of the company is C&K Motors, and I'm going to create the links for the navigation. I'm going to create 4 links. Okay, and the name of the for each link, we're going to have, it's not really directing anywhere, so we're just going to use hash. And here is going to take about. The next link is going to take services. The next link is going to take cars, and the next link is going to take pricing. Okay, next is to create our contact button. We're going to create 2 buttons. So the first button is going to take contact, and the second button is going to take rent. Okay, so now we've started. This is what we're trying to build, and this is what we currently have now. So next is to style it. We're just going to style, we're going to set the margin to 0, padding to 0. Then for the body tag, I'm going to use this background image, this value. You can see there's a little difference. So now I'm going to start with the navigation bar. Let's start to styling that first. So for the navigation bar, I'm going to set the width to 100%. And the height, I'm going to set it to 50 pixels. Then display, want it to be flex. Then justify content, space between each of the elements. Then we're going to add a padding top of 20 pixels. You can see what we have now. Next thing is to style the logo, which stands for the C&K Motors. So we're going to set the font size to 22 pixels. I'm going to set the font width to 600 and add a padding left of 30 pixels. This is what we have now. And the next thing is to style the navigation links. So for this navigation links, I'm going to add, we're going to style the links, each of the links. So I'll add the A tag, then text decoration none. We don't want any underline. Okay. Then we're going to set the color to black, and we're going to set the font size. We're going to set it to 18 pixels, and the font width is going to be 600 as well. Okay, next is to style the link container itself. So we want it to display flex, and I'm going to add a gap of 30 pixels between each links. Okay, another thing we need to do is to add an hover effect. So when you hover on each of those links, I want it to show a color. The text decoration, there should be underline under it when you hover, and the color should be red. Okay, you can see that on the screen now. And another thing we need to do is I need to change this to pricing. There was an alphabetical error there. Okay, so the next thing is contact. I'm going to style the contact container in the navigation. So I'm going to set it to display flex, and I'm going to add a gap of 10 pixels between each of those buttons, and the padding right, I'm going to set it to 25 pixels. You can see what we have now. Next thing is to style the button tag itself. Okay, so for the button tag, I'm going to add a width of 130 pixels, a height of 50 pixels, and border radius, I'm going to set it to 30 pixels. And I'm going to set the border to none. I'm also going to set the color of the font to white. And I'm going to set the background to red. So I'm going to also set the font size to 16 pixels, the font of the text, and the font weight to 600. So this is what we have currently. And the next thing I want to work on is each of those buttons. So I'll start with the first button. I'm using the nth child. So the background, I want to set it to none, and I want to set the color to red. So this is what we have now. Another thing we need to do is to set the hover effect. So when you hover on this first button, I want to add the background to be red, and I want the color to be black, to be white instead. So this is what we have now. Okay. Another thing we need to do is to set the hover effect for the second button, nth child 2. We're going to set the background to tomato, and we're going to add color to be black. So this is what we have right now. So our navigation bar is okay. It's the same as what we're trying to build. Then the next thing we need to do now is the body section, which is the home section. So I'll create a div tag with the class name home, and I'll create 3 div tags for the left, center, and the right. Okay, for this is the right. So I'll start with the left. On the left side, we have some text. So I'll start with the car name, basically. So I'll use an h2 tag. This h2 tag is going to contain this, your car, your journey. I'll add a break tag within each of it, your car, your journey, your way. So there will be a break tag. So another thing we need to add is the ID. So the ID is going to take car name. Also, we need to create another div tag for the car description. Okay, I'm going to add some little text to it, and the text is just going to be this. I'm going to set the text to this. Okay, so this is the text, and the next thing I'm going to do now in this left section is to create a button, and it's going to take just one button to view details. Okay, so another thing, okay, this is what we currently have now. This is what we're trying to build. This is what we have now. Next is to move to the center. At the center, we have an image. So I'm going to copy these 3 images from car 1 to 4. I'll add it to the folder. So I'm going to be using the second car, and I'll set it, and I'll add an ID. Okay, there will be an ID for it. It's going to take an ID of car image, car img. So this is what we have. We have the car on the screen already. So at the right section, I'm going to create another div tag and give it a class name of right text. And within this, we're going to have an h2 tag that will take 100 plus and a p tag that will take trusted clients. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and paste it twice. So I'll just change the text image. This will take 120, and this is going to take, the p tag is going to take car sold, and the second container is going to take 200 plus, and this is going to take car repaired. Okay, so this is what we have currently. This is what we're trying to build. This is what we have. And for this home, let's style it now. So I'm going to create a comment here, home styling, and I'm going to start styling. Okay, we're going to set the display of the home container to flex. The flex direction is going to take row. Then I'm going to set align items. It's going to take center. I want all the items to be at the center. I'm going to add an height of 80 VH to it. And I'm also going to add a padding inline of 100 pixels. And the position is going to be relative. So this is what we currently have. Okay, next thing is to style. Let me move to the right section. Let me style that first. So we're going to have .home.right because we are styling a class. We'll be using dot. So the width is going to take 900 pixels. The height is going to take 70%. And the display, I want it to be flex. So flex direction is going to take colon. So let's see. And the gap is going to take 30 pixels for the gap between each of those elements. So this is what we have now on the right hand side. This is what we're trying to build. This, from what we're trying to build, it has an HR tag. So I'll just quickly add this HR tag between the three container. So currently we have this. Let's style the HR tag. Let's style the container itself. So I'll start with the right text. So this is going to take .home.right container, then .right text. So let's start by styling the H2 tag. I'm going to set the font size to, so I'm going to set the bottom as well to 18 pixels. Now I'm going to style the P tag. So the font size for this P tag is going to take 18 pixels. And I'm going to style the HR tag as well. So for this HR tag, the height is going to be 2 pixels. I would set the background to be black. And I want to add a little border of none. Okay, there's a mistake. It's not supposed to be dots because we are styling a tag. We're not styling a class. So next, we're going to style the left container. So for the left container, I'm going to start with the car name. Okay. So I'm going to set the font size. I'll set it to 35 pixels. The margin bottom to 20 pixels. And next thing I need to style now is the car description. Okay. So I'm going to add the font size here. I'm going to set it to 16 pixels. And I'm going to add the margin bottom as well to be 20 pixels. Okay, the next thing I want to style now is the button. So I'm going to style this button. I'm going to add the width. I'll set the width to be 140 pixels. And I'll set the height to be 50 pixels. So the border radius, I'm just going to add 30 pixels around the border. So I want the border line to be none. And I want the color of the text in the button to be white. And I want the background of the button itself, I want it to be red. And I'll set the font size to be 16 pixels, which is the font size of the text in the button. Font weight, I'm going to set it to 600, and this is what we currently have. Okay, so I'm going to set the hover effect as well. So when you hover on it, I want it to show a background of tomato. And the color of the text, I want it to be black. So this is it. It's working perfectly. So as you can see, is almost the same. So the next thing I want to do now is to work on the center, the image at the center. Okay, so I'm going to do .home.center. I'm going to add an animation. As you can see from what I showed earlier, the image is floating, the car is floating. So I'll add an animation of 4 seconds, easing out infinite. So I would use a keyframe animation and name it float car as I named it earlier here. I'm going to copy this and paste it. Okay, so at 0%, I'll set it to 0% first. At 0%, the element will start at its original position with no vertical translation. That means I'm going to translate this y to 0. I'll set it to translate to 0. And at 50%, I'll set it upwards. Okay, it will translate to minus 1.5 rem. That means it's going to float upwards, and at 100%, it will return back to its original position. So it's going to translate y of 0. So as you can see, it is working perfectly well. Another thing we need to work on is this home right, the right container. I'm going to add an animation here as well. Sliding right. I'll name the animation for the keyframe that I'm about to use sliding right, and I want to add 0.9 seconds forwards. So I would use a keyframe animation and I would name it sliding right. So this will gradually move the elements from right to left. So I'm going to set the original position on the x-axis will be 60%, and I'll set the opacity to 0. So then it will move from 60%, it will slide in from 60% back to its original position, which is going to take 0, and the opacity here is going to take 1. As you can see, this is sliding in perfectly well. The next thing we're going to work on is the different car options, the 3 different options that we had in the sample we're trying to build. So I'll create a div tag here for more cars. I'll give the class name more cars. In this div tag, I'm going to create the cars, each of the cars, the car container. So this is going to take an image. This will take the first image, and I'll create another div container that will take car details. Okay, so in the details, we're going to have an h1 tag that will take, I'm just going to write a simple text here, your car, and a p tag that will take this. I'm going to write this, your car, your journey, your way, just a simple text. You can change it to whatever you want to. So I'm going to copy this car container and I'll paste it twice. So the second one is going to take the third car, and the third one is going to take the fourth car. So this is what we have currently. Next thing we need to do is style it so it will look exactly like what we're trying to work on. Okay, now to our CSS. I'm going to start by styling these more cars. So I'll just write a comment here for more cars, and for this more car, I'm going to set the display to flex direction. Okay, let me set the justify content to center. The padding inline is going to take 100 pixels. Let me set the padding itself to 10 pixels, not the padding inline. Okay, then it's going to take a margin top of minus 40 pixels. The width is going to be 100%, because this is what we have now. And for the car container itself, we're going to have, I'm going to set the width to 300 pixels, and I'm going to set the height to 90 pixels. So we're going to add a padding of 4 pixels, and I'm going to set the margin to be 25 pixels. The border radius is going to take 8 pixels, and it's going to display flex. Oh, that's a mistake. This is going to display flex. And the flex direction is going to take row as well. So align item, I'm going to set all the items to center, and I'm going to set this justify content to center, and I'm also going to set the cursor to pointer, and I'm going to set the background to white smoke. So if we view, okay, let's set the box shadow to this value. If we view this now, we're not really seeing anything because the image size has not been set. So I'm going to set the image. So the width is going to take 100 pixels and the height is going to take 80 pixels. So I'm going to set the border radius of the image to 10 pixels, and now we have this. Okay. So another thing we need to work on is the car details. So for this car details, we're going to have a margin left of 40 pixels. Okay. Then for the car details as well, the H3 tag in the car details container, I'm going to set the font size to 24 pixels. Okay, this is looking good. And also, we need to work on the over effect of the car container. So I'm going to set the transform scale to 1.1. So if you hover on it, it's going to go on a scale of 1.1. So now if we compare this, if we click on what we are working on exactly, it's not really showing when we click on it. So we're going to start with our JavaScript. So I'll create a JavaScript function and name it show car. And I'm going to set the parameter to type, which will specify the type of car we want to display. The next thing I'm going to do is to create 3 variables, which will take the car image, car name, and car description. And it was, so I'm going to, for this variable here, I'm going to select the ID. Okay. So each variable is going to select the elements in our HTML document using document.getElement by ID. Okay, that's why previously I went to index.html and I selected the image ID. So I'm going to select the car name using the ID that I already set in our HTML document. Next is to create another variable for car description, which is going to store the ID of our element of the car description. So the car description does not currently have an ID. So I'm going to add the ID in the p tag for car description. So I'll copy this and paste it here. Okay. So the next thing we need to do now is to create an if statement and set the parameter to type as well. So depending on the type, we're using 3 types: range, Benz, and so we're going to start with the car image. So if it is range, it will update the car image source. That's why we have car img.src to our selected car, and we'll also update the car name, the text content of the car name, has set the car name to Land Rover Range SUV, and the car description is going to take this as well. Okay, so I'll use an else if statement with the type. So if this type is a Jeep, I'm going to change the car image, like want to update it when you click on it. So I'm going to copy this and paste it and just make a little modification. So if it is Jeep, we're going to set the car to the 3rd car, and I'm going to change the name to White Jeep. And else, then we'll use another else if statement. So if the type is a Benz, we're going to paste what we copied earlier. We're going to paste it here and make a little modification. I'm going to set the car image and the car name. Okay, so in here we made a little mistake. It's supposed to be car name. So I'm making the correction right now. So the second one is going to be canning. Okay. So our JavaScript is complete. Now the next thing we need to do is to go to our HTML. In this, the first car container under the markers, we're going to use an on-click function. So if you click on, we're going to use, the function name is going to be show car. So if you click on the type range, okay, then it's going to show you for Range Rover. It's going to update the detail to Range Rover details. So I'm going to change this to Jeep. So if you click on Jeep, it's going to show you the details of Jeep, and if you click on Benz, it's going to show you the details of Benz. So let's reload. Now let's see if it's working. We click on this, the name changes, the image changes. We click on this, the name changes, the image changes. So this is the simple website we're trying to build. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thank you.